Hey everybody, guess who's back? None other than your favorite blues blogger? Anyway, sorry about the extended absence, but it happens. I'm starting to grow out my playoff beard here. I don't know if you can tell or not. It basically looks like my it's finals week stubble. So right now it's not so much. I started about a week ago when we clinched, but to be fair, I hadn't shaved in a couple of days before we clinched just because I'm a lazy guy anyway. So I got about a week of growth on this thing so far. Alright, that's the playoff beard. Now let's actually talk about the playoffs. And first, it's amazing to be here, okay? I, uh, I went to the last Canucks game, and man, the Scott was rocking that night. It was just fantastic, and I really hope that power play dance catches on. For those of you who don't know it, I can find a link to it, put it up there on my thing. As far as atmosphere goes for this upcoming playoff series, I'm not worried one bit about matching the intensity of the Vancouver Canuck fans because this city has been waiting for a long time to see their Blues in the playoffs. So let's talk about some of the questions going into the playoffs. And some of them is who's going to come out of the lineup for us, because you can only have so many scratches. You can have 3 scratches and then your regular roster. We're going to have too many once Paul Correa comes back. We'll get into PK in a second. First, let's talk about who's going to come out. And our candidates that kind of get thrown around a bit are Dan Heinold, BJ Crombeen, Cam Janssen, Brad Winchester, Alex Steen, and Tyson Strachan. So let's talk about these guys in that order. Dan Heinold, reasons to keep him in. He has playoff experience. He has Stanley Cup experience. He's won one of those things before. He brings a tough game. I don't think teams look forward to playing to him at all. BJ Crombeen, he's also a tough guy, and he's willing to drop him and scrap. And he has a streaky scoring touch every now and then. It seems like he'll go dormant for months at a time, and then he'll have a 2-goal game like he did in Dallas, I believe. Maybe. Next guy on the list is Cam Janssen. I know a lot of people are saying that you don't need an enforcer in playoff hockey, and you don't need the added toughness, and that our roster is tough enough, and that we don't need Cam Janssen. And I understand those comments, and I understand the ideas behind those, but I want a guy on this roster who can go out there and punish somebody if somebody takes a run at one of our young guys, because that's what somebody's going to try to do. I mean, I can guarantee is that Vancouver's going to try to come out in this series and play us hard, and so we need a guy who can go out there and beat the living stuff out of them. So that's why I want Janssen in the lineup. I want somebody to be able to stick up for Oshie or Perron or Berglund or, those guys who are young and they're going to try to rattle them and get them off their game. So I want Janssen in there to be able to discourage that. Okay, and Winchester and Steen both just seem like silly suggestions to me. They're both very solid players who can score. Steen, my cousin and I have started nicknaming him Flash for his flashes of brilliance in long stretches of mediocrity. Really like those two guys in the lineup, especially Winchester. He's got a pretty nice shot, pretty heavy shot too. And Steen, I mean, he can make plays. So, yeah. So then that leaves us with Tyson Strachan, and he's my candidate to be kind of thrown out of the lineup. And here's why. First off, he's on a 2-way contract, and so we can send him down to the minors with no penalty, which is very nice. And secondly, he can be recalled on an emergency basis. I know he's our only scratch defenseman right now, but if I'm understanding the rules correctly, if we lose a defenseman to injury, we can go ahead and call Tyson up and on an emergency basis, and until that defenseman is healed, he'll play. And that seems like the ideal solution to me, because you don't have to get rid of anybody. You can keep Janssen in the lineup, or not in the lineup, but you can keep him scratched just in case you want to use him one game to send a message or something like that. You can keep guys like Crombeen and Heinold in the lineup, guys who are going to fight and guys who are good in the locker room, guys like that. Steen and Winchester obviously should be in there anyway. So Strachan would be my odd man out here. And he hasn't played since March 20th. I mean, he needs some playing time anyway, so if you send him down to Peoria, where I'm not sure if they're making a playoff run, I should probably look that up. But either way, if you want to just send him down and give him some time to play and freshen up his game, that would be good for him anyway. I mean, I'm sure he's been practicing with the team, but can't hurt. So another question here going into these playoffs, this playoff series, is will the veterans show up? And I know Keith Tkachuk has a bit of a reputation for kind of, I don't know if slacking is the right word, but definitely not being nearly as effective in the playoffs. But I don't know if that reputation is really well earned. He's not a point per game in the playoffs, I don't think, but he's definitely a force. And I know, I think the second year he was here, he was a point per game at least when we made the playoffs. So I think I think he'll be fine. I mean, he's Keith Kachuk. He'll find a way to get it done, especially on this team now. It's different before when he wasn't the only veteran in the lineup. It was different then when Al McInnes was the leader, Chris Pronger was the leader. Those guys were the headmen of this strong club. Now Keith Kachuk knows his role and his responsibility as the veteran presence here, and he knows what that means. He's not in limbo about his job. That said, I don't think he should get more than third line time, really. And another big question, what veteran will show up? Everybody wants to know, will Paul Kariya show up at all? And survey says yes, basically, is that he'll be back in the lineup eventually. I was reading JR today, and he was saying that Kariya hasn't booked a flight, and hasn't gone out to Vancouver yet, so it sounds like he might miss game 1. I'm not really sure. Either way, that kind of lets us see who is going to be a playoff performer and who's not. Okay. So that would be, I mean, my only big concerns about the veteran presence in the lineup is Kariya and Kachuk, and I'm not even concerned about Kachuk. I know other people are, though. So Kariya, maybe he'll show up, maybe he won't in the first game, but I think he'll be back.